What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the online family? JamiroFan 2000 here with yet a first episode, hopefully, of a new bit of a modified series of JamiroFan Talks About. Omnibus. Now, I always like to try to do new things in my videos, and JamiroFan Talks About has been one of my longest running series next to the Jamiroquai Minute. So, as of recently, the online family, at least in regards to Reddit and some of my social media, have been asking a lot of FAQ questions and a lot of questions about the unreleased music of Jamiroquai. Now, I did publish a resource guide several months ago called the Unreleased Of QUAI, and I thought this was a bit of a fertile topic to cover in an omnibus video of JamiroFan Talks About, given this is my periodic discussion series here on my channel. So I thought I'd go through every major time period, noting all of the unreleased music from Jamiroquai, be it live, be it recorded, be it colloquial, be it anecdotal, in one small video here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel, going through every major yearly period. Now, this is going to be a bit of an undertaking, and this is my first time recording probably going to be a very, very long video. Probably I'm extrapolating maybe between 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not going to say. This is a new spinoff of JamiroFan Talks About here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel, but I thought I'd do something different and give everybody in the family at least a place they can see all the information on a specific centralized topic about Jamiroquai's musicality, in this case, the unreleased side of Jamiroquai's music. So let's start off with the first time period, the year of 1991 through 1992. What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the online family? JamiroFan 2000 here with yet a first episode, hopefully, of a new bit of a modified series of JamiroFan Talks About. Omnibus. Now, I always like to try to do new things in my videos, and JamiroFan Talks About has been one of my longest running series next to the Jamiroquai Minute. So, as of recently, the online family, at least in regards to Reddit and some of my social media, have been asking a lot of FAQ questions and a lot of questions about the unreleased music of Jamiroquai. Now, I did publish a resource guide several months ago called the Unreleased Of QUAI, and I thought this was a bit of a fertile topic to cover in an omnibus video of JamiroFan Talks About, given this is my periodic discussion series here on my channel. So I thought I'd go through every major time period, noting all of the unreleased music from Jamiroquai, be it live, be it recorded, be it colloquial, be it anecdotal, in one small video here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel, going through every major yearly period. Now, this is going to be a bit of an undertaking, and this is my first time recording probably going to be a very, very long video. Probably I'm extrapolating maybe between 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not going to say. This is a new spinoff of JamiroFan Talks About here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel, but I thought I'd do something different and give everybody in the family at least a place they can see all the information on a specific centralized topic about Jamiroquai's musicality, in this case, the unreleased side of Jamiroquai's music. So let's start off with the first time period, the year of 1991 through 1992. Now, 1993 through 1995 for that young Jamiroquai, after coming off the heels of a multi-platinum selling European and UK debut with Emergency on Planet Earth, Jamiroquai really was hitting the studio very hard between 92 to 93 in that period. And there was a series of demos that were recorded by the fledgling young Jamiroquai at the Nomi recording studios in the London area. And these demos in particular were only became aware of once shared by original Jamiroquai drummer Nick Van Gelder via his YouTube channel. These demos that were recorded are lovingly known as the Nomi rehearsal demos, and those demos in question were for two unreleased songs. One was an instrumental, one was a actual full-fledged song. One was called Friends, the other one was called Funky 7. Now, the other demos as part of this Nomi rehearsal demos that were shared by Nick Van Gelder via his YouTube channel that pretty much are well-known songs was If I Like It, I Do It, and this first version was a DJ Desire, who was the DJ of Jamiroquai during the early days of the band's history. A scratch monitor mix. The other one was a studio demo of If I Like It, I Do It, and the other one was, of course, the sprawling, beautiful instrumental for Music of the Mind, which was also part of this demo set. But like I said, these demos only only became very aware to the online Jamily when shared by original Jamiroquai drummer Nick Van Gelder via his YouTube channel. But I'll give you a little bit backstory on these demos. These demos were recorded in early to mid 1992 period at the Nomi Recording Studios in London, England. These demo tapes, originally owned by former Jamiroquai drummer Nick Van Gelder, would be unearthed and shared through a series of highlights on his aforementioned YouTube channel around the year of 2011. The highlights of these demos, of course, as aforementioned, is an unreleased song called Friends, a studio demo with DJ Desire Scratch a monitor mix, If I Like It to Do It, a more sprawling studio demo, of course, the great instrumental from the Mercy on Planet Earth, Jamiroquai's first album, Music of the Mind, and an unfinished but yet unreleased instrumental studio demo of a song called Funky 7. Now, that would not be the only stuff that would be shared by Nick Van Gelder, but a plethora of other unreleased live tracks from Jamiroquai's concerts at the SHS Cafe and, of course, at the Town and Country Club in London would also be shared. And was only 4 live tracks from this time period that was shared also by Nick Van Gelder, original drummer of Jamiroquai. But one of the standout tracks out of it, and of course, it was If I Like It, I Do It, Blow Your Mind, and a song called Honky Tonk, which is yet another unreleased instrumental from that time period. But I'll give you a little background on these live tracks that were also additionally shared by Nick Van Gelder back from the 1992 to 1993 period. These were the remainder of the live tracks that former Jamiroquai drummer Nick Van Gelder shared via his YouTube channel in the year 2011. The standout highlight, of course, was the aforementioned unreleased live instrumental track Honky Tonk, which was played at the Town and Country Club in 1993. A really funky number featuring some of J.K.'s hearty scatting along with the killer groove, and of course the known songs If I Like It, I Do It, Blow Your Mind, and the only difference one was Too Young to Die, which of course was from the 1992 period at the SHS Cafe. Now we move on yet to another unreleased song that was originally called Wild Style, but is now known, it's also known to many members, bootleg fans of the online Jamily collectors, as Rock the House. Now this song in particular was only performed twice during the 1993 Mercy on Planet Earth period. This was an improvised jam track based on a classic Grandmaster Flash Furious 5 song sample and another sample by another group called Whole Damn Family of a song called 7 Minutes of Funk that Jamiroquai fooled around with during their 1993 aforementioned Mercy on Planet Earth tour during their European tour dates supporting that debut album from 1993. Now, another unreleased track that was only played 2 times during that time period would end up becoming metastasizing or being repurposed into yet another early song. And that song in question is known as Let Me Believe, which was a big fan favorite of this time period. Now, this song, Let Me Believe, was only performed live 2 times, and this was mostly during the 1993 aforementioned Mercy on Planet Earth tour period. This was a track that Jamiroquai had decided to tool around with during their 1993 tour, a period where they did try out a lot of new material and live gigs, as I've said, which would end up being on their follow-up album of their multi-platinum selling Mercy on Planet Earth on Return to the Space Cowboy, would be repurposed and into the song Manifest Destiny on that 1994 album from Jamiroquai. And like I said, this was a big fan favorite during that time period, at least for all the unreleased songs that they decided to try out and play out in the live arena. Now, another song that made its way onto the live set list, which would be repurposed into a 1994 Return to the Space Cowboy song, is a song lovingly called Do That Dance. Now, Do That Dance was only performed 3 times during the 1993 Mercy on Planet Earth tour period. We got was another infectiously funky number of a track that was played a sparse amount of times during the 1993 Mercy on Planet Earth Jamiroquai tour period. This song, much like Let Me Believe, would be yet another song whose melody would be repurposed, as I said, into a future 1994 Return to the Space Cowboy album track called Scam. And it was a very, very funky number, and I really do enjoy that song. And yet another unreleased song from this time period was a song called Brothers Like You, Giving Me a Bad Name in parentheses. Now, this song, and Brothers Like Me, was only performed 2 times during the 1993 Mercy on Planet Earth album period, and was a track that made a short stint during the 1993 tour, usually as a blistering opener for a lot of those tour stops in 1993. A funky lyrical examination of race relations, a majority of the lyrics which were improvised by J.K. and its live airings. Sadly, the song would be left over and not ventured upon any further of its 2 live airings by the band live in the Mercy on Planet Earth album tour period, of course, of 1993. Now, another song which was completely improvised was not improvised was not done by JK, but actually by Jamiroquai's generationally important bassist, Stuart Zender, and that song was lovingly known as Stu's Tune. Stu's Tune was only played 2 times during the Mercy and Planet Earth tour period, and this is yet another killer groove mess of a Stuart Zender-driven uber-bass masterhood aired during the 1993 Mercy and Planet Earth tour. Again, the whole band was on point in this jazzy, funky track, with JK doing more of his vintage improvised lyrics along with the band, and boy did I love Stu's Tune. It was such a classic track. Now, another song which did go through a weird title, but you know, it ended up being kind of the base of a sample was a song called "Life Goes On" that was only played 1 time during the 1993 Mercy and Planet Earth tour. A high-tempo, speedy funk track that sadly didn't make it past 1 live performance back in the 1993 Mercy and Planet Earth tour. A lot of Stuart Zender bass work, Toby Keith, and DJ Desire Scratchwork really made this memorable stoned cold picnic of a Rave Alive track, and this is another one of my favorite unreleased song jam session kind of songs during that early time period. So let's move on to the next time period in this JamiroFan Talks About Omnibus of the Unreleased of QUAI of the time periods of 1994 through 1995. Now we're into 1994-1995, a period of unreleased QUAI music, so let's get on with it. The first track in question from between 1994 to 1995 during the Return of the Space Cowboy tour, which was one of the most animated tours of the early tour legs that Jamiroquai would go on. It's for a track called Mr. Boogie. Now, this song was sadly only played once during the 1994 aforementioned Return of the Space Cowboy tour. Another jam section of a live track that made its limited debut during the Japanese portion of the 1994 Space Cowboy tour, showcasing all the amazingly talented band members of Jamiroquai was a jam track in the vein of James Brown and the JBs. But this song was yet another live track that would melodically emigrate itself into a traveling out moving song from 1996 era instrumental track called Slippin' and Sliding, which just so happened to debut on the groundbreaking, as a B-side on the groundbreaking single from 1996 from Traveling Out Moving for the song Virtual Insanity. Now, the next unreleased track of this era would be for yet another song that had only a couple of handfuls of airings, which is called parentheses, Who the Funk Do You Think You Are? Now, this song, unfortunately, would only be played 3 times during the 1995 tour leg of the Return of the Space Cowboy tour. A slow burner of a great live track led by Stuart Zender's smooth bass work in a tandem with the horn section and the latter some sweet flute. This is a pure vintage groove track. JK also chirps away with improvised lyrics about the impoverished throngs of humanity. Such a relaxing live track to chill out to. It was a great highlight of the Return of the Space Cowboy album tour. Now we move on to some various studio demos from the Return of the Space Cowboy time period from the year of 1994. And much like the Nick Van Gelder demos that were shared, some of the live tracks that were shared via his YouTube channel back in 2011, these 3 demos and questions for 3 of the tracks from that album of Mr. Moon, Scam, and Morning Glory just so happened to be shared by Stuart Zender via his YouTube channel. Now let's go into the backstory of these demos for Mr. Moon, Scam, and Morning Glory, or should I say very snippet demos of these, or at least of the musicality of these 3 integral tracks from Return to Space Cowboy in 1994. This trio of unheard studio demos were shared by Zender Music YouTube channel, run by former Jamiroquai bassist Stuart Zender back in 2017. These were released, which related Stuart Zender interviews talking about these instrumental demo tracks via his YouTube channel at zendermusic.com, which is also mentioned, at least to me in my queries, that an additional studio demo for the Return of the Space Cowboy track Light Years was also planned to be released during this period of 2017, but alas, it never materialized. But these 3 demos that were shared by Stuart Zender, are very much of the melodic sense more than the lyrical sense, but it was an amazing look into the musical making process that Jamiroquai seemed to be absolutely getting into an effortless music compositional form by the time they reached their next major music period of Traveling Out Moving in 1996, and that's where we're leading next in this JamiroFan Talks About Omnibus. We're going into the time period of 1996, of 1996 through 1998, of the Unreleased of QUAI, the unreleased music of Jamiroquai. Now we're into the fourth album era of recording, of course, of the Traveling on Moving. When Jamiroquai went mainstream, they were groundbreaking, and they just hit the worldwide mainstream pay dirt. Now, this first one is going to be for a very fond song that, or should I say, a pair of song fragments that the Jamily has been talking about ad nauseum for literally 32 years of their history. And of course, I'm talking about Midnight Funk. Now, this is also known as, these two audio fragments is also known as Symphonized or Midnight Funk. But please bear in mind, this isn't like an unreleased song. This is a pair of audio fragments from the 1996 to 97 traveling, 1996 through 1998 traveling on moving post into synchronized era. So let me give you a little backstory on Midnight Funk. Midnight Funk was originally comprised of two song fragments that J.K. played at the Chillington Studios while recording vignettes for hosting an MTV VMAs, or Video Music Awards, previous awards winner special that aired on MTV networks, specifically in the United States, in the year of 1998. It was never articulated by J.K. or any other band members that these song fragments were parts of one or two separate songs that were left over from the Traveling Out Moving album sessions of 1996, but the Jamily of fans lovingly referred to them together as a track under the name of Midnight Funk or Symphonized. And those audio fragments were recorded and salvaged and put up on YouTube. So if you want to look up Midnight Funk, you can easily find it on YouTube. But very mesmerizing fragments that these songs would, these fragments would be discovered and shared online. But I don't know if they ever were repurposed into latter tracks on Synchronized, but one of the fragments is rumored to have ended up as one of the songs on Synchronized from 1998, which was Jamiroquai's follow-up to their mainstream breaking album from 1996 of Traveling Without Moving. Now, another unreleased song from the Traveling Without Moving album session period of 1996 through 97 was called Lost in Love. Now, this song, as I said, it was recorded sometime during the Traveling Without Moving album sessions, but I'll give you a little backstory on it. Apparently, only referenced in a short fly-on-the-wall Japanese documentary about the recording of Jamiroquai's third album from 1996, Traveling Without Moving, this song has never been heard outside of the studio and was only written on a prospective track list for the album on a whiteboard shown in a pre-mentioned documentary on Japanese television. Like I said, no audio of this song was recorded either from the studio or was ever performed live during the aforementioned Traveling on Moving live tour, which went all around the world for literally 2 years. And now this leads on to our next time period for Jamiroquai and the Unreleased Of QUAI, all the unreleased music of Jamiroquai, for this episode of JamiroFan Talks About Omnibus for the time period of 1998 through the year 2000.